call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. How is the local family budget headed into Christmas, especially around the holidays, this holiday time? Money seems to continue to be on the minds of locals, mostly local people, local residents, headed into the holidays. With store thefts remaining in top headlines, this could prove that there are still a lot of people in need. That means money, times are tight. Folks, this story is still developing, and as more data comes in after the holiday season, especially after Black Friday, eyes will be on how families are weathering the Christmas spending storm this year. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. A non-profit on the east side has shifted some attention on their what they've got going on, their plans, some attention on their side. The east side of Youngstown is filled with land after the death of Perseus Davis May, a 10-year-old who was killed on Youngstown's south side in the summer of 2021. One report out of WFMJ by Aaron Mahoning explains how a non-profit is looking to create a park and some new homes to shift the atmosphere of the attention on the east side of Youngstown. Now, the non-profit has acquired 21 parcels of nearly 14 acres of land on the east side of Youngstown in an effort to create a community park and more homes. Now, the progress is being made in the donate. Well, I guess in the progress that is being made, the donation aspect of the story was not mentioned, but the fact that 21 parcels of land have been purchased in an effort to do something positive with money is what got the story in, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3. Dan Rivers, radio host, is set to retire from his 9 to 12 news slot on WKBN. Why is this story important, folks? This story is important because 570 WKBN has been on the air for a long time before I was even born. When I was a kid, about 20-something years old, I was able to be on the Mangino show. That's how long this station has been around. Now, 570 WKBN it's been ringing through the airwaves of the Valley for probably before I was even born. Now, Andy Gray has a report published November 23rd about how Dan Rivers was set to retire from his 9 to 12 news slot. And the fact is that not too many people have the gift or passion to do radio. You have to take a lot of stuff, and on top of that, you have to keep your own values and views. Now, Dan Rivers has held the slot for more than 20 years and has been with the station for more than 40 years. Rivers said that he will continue to podcast and work with the afternoon crew on the Ron Verb show. The article is filled with information about Rivers, how he was a Navy veteran, and how he got into radio. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Big me. Story number 4. Austintown to dedicate a war monument, or has already dedicated a war monument. Vindicator correspondent Bill Koch has a report published November 25th about the dedication of a war monument honoring Persian Gulf War veterans and Afghanistan War veterans. I guess this took place in Austintown. Now, they dedicated the war monument in the cold rain. That's how important it was. The monument committee and everyone involved have their own story, according as stated in the article, because the entire project was delayed due to COVID-19 some time back. So Thomas Moss Jr., according to the report, ended up igniting the flames to make it happen for the memorial. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Big. Story number 5. The movement to continue to build up in Youngstown continues. David Scolding has a report published November 27th in what appears to be the Mahoning County Land Bank has received $5 million, a $5 million state grant to construct 19 new homes in the city of You. Now, this this adds to a number of stories this week in what appears to be a house building movement after 2 new duplexes have already been built on Glenwood in Youngstown, Ohio, on the city's south side. This was story number 5, made it this week. Story number 6, Youngstown is seeking $834,000, more than $834,000, from an ex-downtown building developer. Now, an $834,608 lawsuit has been filed by the city of Youngstown against former finance director David Bazanich, according to an article published November 22nd by David Scolding. According to the claim, developer Dominique Marcionda, along with some other parties, participate in a calculated scheme to defraud Youngstown in a public corruption case. I guess this had a lot to do with water bill money. Now, the article is filled with what appears to be corrupt money to beautify and rebuild buildings in downtown Youngstown. Judge Anthony M. Diapolito has been assigned to the case. That's why number 6 also made to the top 2 this week. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week for you. Keep you informed. If you don't get up this early, you can always check out the show on the website. I upload it every Monday. Story number 7. 6 new homes on Youngstown South Side. Sheen Barron has a report published November 22nd explaining how several new homes are being built on the city of Youngstown South Side. Some of the buildings will take place on Mineral Springs Avenue. According to the report, Councilman Julius Oliver seemed pretty upbeat about the projects. Now, the homes even come with a 15-year property tax abatement. One key talking point in the report is a simple stat that only 20 new home units have been built in the city during the last 15 years. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made this week for you, all voluntarily. If you do want to show me some support, all you have to do is go to the website, buy something, or come to the store, or click on something, come to the store at 5648 Market Street. I'm here to keep you informed, just with the passion and the wherewithal to volunteer my time to do something positive for you. Keep you informed, show you how important it is. There's a movement every week to keep you informed. Story number 8, how are local businesses doing so far one holiday down after Thanksgiving? Youngstown is moving on from the tragic downtown explosion with more goals to reach. Local residents have made it known that the downtown area needs to focus on more parking for businesses and for some events so they can park and get into it and show the downtown some more, give it some more population. People can come down there and explore. Now, downtown if you did not know, downtown was filled with activity during the Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert, and is moving forward with more amazing events to help bring more attention to local businesses and the climate downtown. So there's something happening here, and that's why story number 8 made it to the top this week, because with businesses you can thrive because they have money to invest, reinvest, spend, hire people. I'm sure you get the picture. Of story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, those are the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. In the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, we're heading into another Christmas and holidays, Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and all that other stuff. And I didn't know how important this holiday season was, especially around this time of year where all the stuff is just depressing. People are dying left and right, relatives or things are happening, people are on drugs, depressed. So the Christmas season is needed around this time. And I have this Christmas hat. It's a Santa Claus hat that one of my customers gave me years ago when I worked for the post office, and I usually bring it around this time of year. And I'm gonna lie, I was kind of doubting if I should bring it out, And I sit around, I see all these kids, and I'm like, man, these kids need something to think of, something magical. I'm not gonna lie, somebody got upset with me last year because I guess they didn't celebrate Christmas, and I invited them to a Christmas party, and I was kind of upset. I was kind of, discouraged about this because I'm like, man, not everybody celebrates Christmas. Not everybody believes in the principles and the concepts. Some people believe it's a pagan holiday. I'm sure you'll see all the YouTube videos of people bashing the holiday, but it's a great idea. Something about this time of year. I'm not gonna lie, my dad and the person who raised me, my father, the father that God gave me, because he stepped in. He was a real gangster when we was kids. Him and my mother couldn't get along 5 minutes. And as a kid, when you watching your parents and you watching these time of year, Christmas is important to me personally, because I'd never seen a time of year where people just got happy and jolly and excited. So my dad was real gangster, rough. For some odd years, he would get real magical around Christmas. Never could understand how he would just do this. He would just transform into this magical man. He would run around, get presents, smile, and I never seen anything like it. I mean, the man was gangster. And he would run his business like he would do everything else. But around Christmas, the man would transform into some type of jolly gangster, giving us presents. And him and my mom, if they would stop arguing, and things just got positive around holidays. So I encourage people, if you do anything, find something to do around this time of year. I don't care if you don't celebrate Christmas, but get somebody a present or something, because if I seen my stepdad do it, I see people coming out magically transforming and jingling around and spinning around, getting all magical and happy inside. That's positive. That's what we need, because people are depressed, tired, lonely, deprived. I don't mind seeing some women in the Christmas hats every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? It makes me feel good. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Don't you like that sound of the year? Let's waste no time, folks. Magical time of year. Don't forget about Christ, Savior. Is born. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Is it just a book? Speaking of that time of year. Question is it just a book? This is a big story. The Bible. Is it just a book? Now, folks, I have seen this book do some amazing things in people's life. My own life, it's been a big thing in my life. I've used it as motivation. Well, Lauren Irwin has a piece published in The Hill on November 24th on a push to incorporate the Bible into the required school lesson plan. Now, the article is very informative when it comes to getting the reader to understand how the education of the Bible plays a major part in the comprehension of learning heritage and the basic foundation of historical learning. So they're basically saying the Bible can teach people a lot. It's not just a book where you get all holy and feel with magical spirit. They're saying that this is something people have been saying for years. It's powerful. Folks, this story made it in to shine more emphasis on the impact of a biblical education, especially during this time of year. Folks, the Bible healed me in the name of our great Lord Yeshua Yahweh Christ in the flesh. It healed me. Blessings be to all great God. Story number 1, big B. Story number 2. A city changed course on homelessness. What happened next? Especially around this time of year. This is in Canada. A homelessness and hunger story is big, especially around this time of year. And these stories are still in major headlines headed into Christmas and all other holy holidays. Now, BBC News has a report on how one Canadian city took a stance against homelessness by regulating tent encampments instead of banning them. If it means they just basically merged them back into the city's plans. Now, this story could give city officials a solution to a simple way to regulate public lands where homeless people are living. Now, the solution could be simply to monitor or regulate the land to merge those who are homeless back into society so they can afford and get back on track, folks. This could give the homeless people a lawful way to get back into business and get back to living normally. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. What is going on in the airport business? Boring workers and layoffs have been very consistent in recent headlines when you talk about the transportation business and air business. Now, Spirit Airlines has stayed in headlines also due to one plane, I guess, was shot at. I was going over a country, and I guess some rebels decided to shoot at it while it was in flight, and then the company later made some headlines for entering the bankruptcy lines with a load of other U.S. companies. Now, the most recent headline in the Charlotte Observer. This is where the headline was placed in the Charlotte Observer. It adds to the air business's saga after Charlotte airport service workers returned to work after a 1-day strike for higher pay. So they went on strike, and then they had to go back to work because they wanted more money, saying times are tight. The CEO is making money. Why can't we make some money, folks? These stories add to a number of issues surrounding the airport business, especially around this time of year. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Big headline. Story number 4. Why the sudden attack on illegal immigration? The Los Angeles Times has a report explaining how California farmers were big Trump backers, but may now be pushing back, and they may be at odds over Trump's immigration stance. Now, the issue is the fact that Trump's plan for mass deportation could penetrate California's heartland, as stated in the report, because Trump's deportation plan would decimate the workforce that farmers rely on to plant and harvest their crops. But unlike other U.S. companies, farmers cannot afford to strike or protest, folks. This story is staying alive because the farming business and agriculture is in the headlines. Well, folks, those are top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So as you go to read the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. Now we're heading into the holidays. It's time to talk about money. And I remember some of my past experiences, especially dealing with banks. And see, when you're heading into the holidays, especially when you run a business, people often get the misinterpretation that the business people are automatically rich. I don't know if you remember the movie National Lampoons, when I think it was the guy comes over, and it was a comedy about this. I guess the guy's boss didn't give him a Christmas bonus. I don't know if y'all remember that movie. And the tree caught on fire, and this dang old squirrel came flying out the tree. The cat got caught on fire, and it was a funny movie, real funny. But it's kind of what happens around this time of year. And my story is the banks. When I first started to open up business, I still had because I had some bad problems in the past with relationships and money. The banks would not loan they don't loan a lot of money to some business owners. I hate to say this, but especially minorities. So main long story short is I had money to get from banks years ago, but after a while, when the money started running out, you go back to the banks, and they will mention that one bad incident. Well, you co-signed for somebody, got in a bad relationship didn't work out, you had to spend money for the divorce. So to make a long story short is, a long time ago, I got this account at a local bank. This happened on 2 occasions. And banks would come up with these great ideas for people who don't have a lot of money, like overdraft protection plans. And me personally, I loved it. I said, oh, this is a fantastic idea. And I didn't mind giving the bank that extra $30 to pay, you know, especially when you get business expenses, because anybody who runs a business knows business expenses are hell. You got to pay the state, you got to pay property taxes. If you own the building, you got to pay rent, pay lease, and all the other stuff, land contracts. You got to pay people who helping you. So when they came with this overdraft protection plan, I said, oh, my word, that is beautiful. So I took advantage of it, and the bank all of a sudden decided to start changing stuff up. And I say, why are you doing that? Why you doing that? You messed my account. So I had to close that account. Then I had another bank, and they called me. They got so upset with me because they want money. And I'm like, I told them, I said, well, you can do this, you can do that. The guy called me on the phone. We had Brian up. I said, why you going to my account to take my money? He said, well, your sister, you co-signed for your sister. I said, give me my money. I need it. It's Christmas time. Got to pay the bills. To make a long story short, is that the system could be better if people would maybe just stop changing stuff. I've been mean mugged so many times at the bank by the teller because I guess the banks, they want to see money deposits, and they probably think people getting shafted, especially when you're running a business that's in the business of running it, trying to achieve your mission statement. So this year, while we're out spending and trying to make the holiday great, the focus may need to be on the system in place for those who the system may be working for and the system may not be working for. But if you do one thing, I would support the businesses, especially the local businesses, because running a business in this economy, in this climate, especially when everything is regulated and it's very, very hard to get loans without making money, it is very, very hard to hire people. I definitely would try my best to support the local business owners. I don't care what color, creed, race they are. If they're in business and they've been serving the community, show them some love. I even made a song about it. Christmas is holy and great, and the Reverend may be preaching, but at the end of the day, he can't pay his bills. Santa Claus won't be able to save him, and the president won't be able to save him if he don't have no money to bless us all on a merry, merry Christmas. Bless us all on a merry, merry Christmas. And the business owner will be broke if you don't spend your money. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Speaking of money, taxes and tariffs, folks, the retail sector has been getting blasted. David Goldman has a CNN report published November 26 explaining how Trump plans to promise a massive tariff hike on goods coming from Mexico, Canada, and China. And they have promised to do the same. Now, the report goes on to explain how the policies could sharply increase cost in regards to American businesses and consumers, folks. This is real. Now, it appears that Trump's motive is to make sure these countries account for the damage done from massive illegal immigration, crime, and drugs coming across the border. Folks, some reports have already surfaced about how much damage this could have already done to the retail sector. It appears that good people will have to suffer yet again for bad people behavior, the drug dealers, because retail when they're doing their retail trade on the black market, folks, the people who are doing stuff legit have to suffer. That's why story number 5 made it. Story number 6, Elon is talking U.S. bankruptcy. Why? There seems to be a buzz around cryptocurrency, according to a Forbes article headlined by Tesla CEO Elon Musk. He's voicing his concern about a U.S. bankruptcy if the country does not shift some form of backup system. That's basically talking about the gold standard to crypto. The idea seems to be to use crypto money to balance out a spiraling $35 trillion in U.S. spending. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 6 also made to the top 2 this week. Big head. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed. Agriculture is back in the headlines. TCD has a report published by Leslie Sadler explaining how experts are warning that concerning weather patterns could have a dire impact on American agriculture. The report explains how developing weather patterns could bring challenging drought conditions to key U.S. farming regions this winter, which could have a major negative effect on food prices and water availability. Now, the story goes on to explain how this is due to the terrible weather patterns. The story made it to the top because agriculture is big and a lot of people don't take it that serious until things start drying up, folks. The story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Headed into the holiday, well, big holiday. Cutting government might do more harm than good, if you did not know, especially around this time in history. Elon and Vivek made it in a headline published by The Hill. The article is asking Elon and Vivek to listen before cutting government. The opinion piece and data piece homes in on what truly would take place in the process of cutting government. The article also goes into the history of failed plans to cut government spending in the past. The article is definitely worth a read for anyone looking to know more about the complications and paperwork involved with cutting such government spending. It appears that the ramifications of pulling the plug on some programs could cause more harm than good, according to the report. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a man in the middle, the mediator, navigating your stories just to keep people informed. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street and buy something in the store. That's Boardman or Youngstown, Ohio. Folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week to look through over 200 or more stories, Lord willing, just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.